Let's go over how you would do perfect alternation. And by perfect alternation, I mean a song, a jingle, a song, a jingle, a song, a jingle, and so on. Unlike what we've been doing before, which is filling to a particular time and then putting in our jingles or whatever, and then going back to fill with music to get to another particular time. Let's take a look at the script we have. Very simple script here where we're just filling to a particular time, running a jingle, and then filling again. Our program is going to be similar to this, but we're going to make it so it's perfect alternation. So I want to start with this as a building block. If you press the plus button with nothing selected as a program, it'll start as a complete blank. We'll get rid of that. But if you start with something selected and hit the plus button to create a new program, it'll actually make a duplicate of that for everything, as you can see here. Now that I've done that, we've got conflicts. As you can see, conflicts on all the times. We've got the little warnings here. And here we also see the warnings there. Well, one of the things I can do here is I could actually disable one of these, and then the conflicts go away. But just as a note, let's actually name this distinctly as 80s alternation, because that's what we're going to make it. If you do have a conflict, the one on top is the one that wins. So if I put 80s alternation up here, this would be the one that programs, and the conflicting one that's below it will not program. But to make things look nicer right now, let's just turn the other one off, and we'll work with the 80s alternation one now. So let's head over to the script. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all these and hit the minus button to delete them all and start fresh. So I'm going to start with a pick. We'll do 80s rotation. We'll do the usual random, unique, all separations, and hour avoidance. Just a pick. And then our next command will be the jingle. So this will also be a pick. So we'll do jingles. Now for jingles, notice when I did this, it duplicated that line as well and copied the random, unique, all separation, and hour avoidance. For that, I don't want all those on. I only went for my jingles randomly selected and unique. But for an hour, we're going to end up using jingles more than 7 times. And if I have unique tracks on, we're going to run out. So one of the things I want to do, particularly with this, is allow those jingles to eventually repeat when we can't make them unique anymore. So I'm making a fallback step set here to U off for this, which means unique off if we cannot do what we need to do. Now here's the really important part. Because if I took this and, well, first of all, let's make the pick here also only go to a max of 57. And then the jingles would follow. And I could make the jingles 57 as well. Let's go ahead and do that. It's probably not as necessary in what we're doing. And we're going to repeat this pattern. But think about it. If we kept doing this, what would end up happening is eventually we won't be able to fit the longer songs, but we might still have room to fit the jingles. And what you'd end up with is you have your perfect alternation for a while. Then you get within maybe 55 minutes into the hour, you can't fit any more songs. Those lines fail, but the jingles can still fit, and it will just put a bunch of jingles at the end. So what we need to do here is make the jingles so that they are dependent on the previous line, and that's this down here. It's the opposite of failover that we saw before. Failover lines only execute if the previous line failed, and dependent lines only execute if the previous line succeeded. So we put dependent on, and now we've got the basis for this whole thing. I'm going to copy this and then paste, and we'll get up to around 40 lines or so. Let's take a look where we are. There we are, 40 lines. And that is the perfect alternation right there. So going back to DJ, we've got tracks up to about 9:56. So let's go back to scheduler, and it should fill in. We're not doing a top of the hour thing here, so we don't expect to see that. But we're going to program for 10 p.m., which is the next hour coming up. Hit manual build. Let it build the whole thing. And when it comes up, we should see this perfect alternation nicely represented by the colors here, because all the songs are unlabeled and all of the jingles are purple here. And as you can see, it did a perfect alternation. And we got up to 10:54 and 47. Pretty close. That's enough. That stays within our 10:57 limit that we put on there. Let's go back and look at the log to see how this all went down. So these logs are meant to be user readable so you can diagnose how your script executed. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult sometimes just by looking what ended up in DJ. So going through the script, some of the things it does here is it sees how many, what are the tracks that are in DJ's queue right now? What time does it go up to right now? Calculates that time, gets the data for the two playlists that we're using in this script. It does a summary of that, and then it starts doing the script lines. And it's going along fine here, doing a pick from the 80s rotation, and then doing a pick from the jingles, and so on and so forth. Doing a fine job. And then we get down here to line 16, and we start having failures. Our first failure here is from the jingle line 16, where it exhausted all 7 possibilities under these requirements. And so what it's going to do is it's going to turn unique tracks off and continue. And it goes on doing that. So we're repeating our jingles now a little bit, but not the music. And that goes on like that in that pattern for a while until we get down to about line 27 here. And because we're already at 10:55 and 48, this next line is unable to find a song that's going to fit. And it tells you the reason. Track duration exceeds 57. And then it goes on to line 28, which is a jingle. And this is skipped, as it says, because dependent is on. And it continues on that pattern for the rest of the script. It gets done, skipping the last jingle that we had in there, gives you a little report at the end, tells you how many tracks it sent to DJ, and that's what we end up with. And that is perfect alternations.